Hello, this is Willie G, and I'm going to show you a little bit of how to make or work around in the Labyrinth Cowl swatch, which is a standalone pattern in itself. This is a finished sample of it. You can see it's a 3-circuit labyrinth, 1, 2, 3, around the center. It's worked in the round to make little tassels at the edges, and that prepares you for a project that is worked in the round, so you can get a more accurate gauge, because you really want to test out making sure that you have a good fabric. You can work it in a variety of gauges. You just want to find the gauge that's right for you, pairing the needles with the yarn that you like. I'm using a worsted weight yarn. This is Briar Rose Fibers Charity. Comes in huge amounts, but I have tons of it and I love to use it because it's just so painterly and beautiful. Our main color is this brown, and that's the next row that we're going to work, is in the brown. It's coming off the left side of the fabric right now. We're going to bring it around the back. But first we need to slide our needle to the other end for this speed swatch, as some people call it. So you can see all these long strands here. We really want them long enough to tie tassels with. I'm going to use my other fingers to secure the yarn. I'm going to capture up my needle. And for this first stitch, on both ends, we're working a twisted purl stitch to lock in the yarn. And we're going to twist it opposite directions. So this one we're going to work as a purl through the back loop. We're going in, instead of through the front loop, we're going in really from behind, catching up that back loop and purling into it. Then, because this is the first round of 2 in this, I'm also tightening up the stitch below. I'm going to knit these next 2 stitches. The next row would be purling them. I slip the background color stitches, which is our blue-green. It's really pretty, isn't it? And here we want to perform a cable stitch, bringing this brown stitch 2 stitches to the left. So it's 1 over 2, keeping the brown at the front. So we're going to reach behind the fabric with our right needle, insert it purlwise into both of those next 2 stitches, the second and third stitch. And if you are nervous about the main color stitch going anywhere, you can secure it with your thumb against the needle as you remove this left needle out. If your tension is good at the back, I would dare you to try simply letting it go and see what happens. There's plenty of room to catch it up, especially on the left-leaning cable. Part of the reason that is because we're working the main color. The second row we would wrap those stitches that are going to be carried. We wrap them twice when we purl them. And that gives extra length, so we really don't have to worry about them going anywhere crazy. At least I haven't had a problem. Other people have, but I would say check your tension at the back of the work if the stitches are pulling away from you. This next one is a right-leaning cable, and instead of letting it hang free, we're going to actually knit it right off the bat, first thing. So to do that, I'm going in really at a perpendicular angle, knitwise into the stitch. I'm just knitting it. And before I remove the left needle, I want to secure with my index finger against the needle right at the base of the stitches, or even almost below them, so that they just are sitting there without really moving. I slide that needle gently out, and ignoring the front stitch, I'm going into those 2 back stitches again, catching them back up so that they are in the new position. I simply slip them to the right needle, and a couple more because that's the pattern. And then I'm going to knit 2 of the edge stitches. Now I am at the final stitch, and this is our twisted purl. So we bring the yarn forward, and this time we insert the right needle as if to knit. We're going to let go with the left needle and reinsert it behind the right needle so that the stitch mount has been twisted counterclockwise a half turn. We're going to simply purl that stitch, and then we can tighten up the stitch below, and it's working against itself to keep it pretty snug until you come back and tie your tassels. So later, when we're getting ready to block this baby, we're going to cut right down the middle here, and then we can tie overhand knots with groups of maybe 3 or 4, 2 is too few, 3 or 4 strands at a time. And that'll give us our nice edging. We actually just closed the top of the labyrinth path, so we actually have our full labyrinth. We're going to do our closing, do a couple more rounds, and then we're going to work back and forth flat. The bottom is just simply 2x2 ribbing, and that kind of stabilizes the fabric. The garter stitch wants to kind of curl up, and that'll keep it nice and flat like this one. Isn't that great? When you walk a labyrinth, you want to take your time, and as you go in, you just kind of allow yourself to follow the path and quiet your mind. Maybe you can carry a question with you and listen. When you get to the middle, that's kind of a safe space, and you just kind of rest in that space, and then you work your way back out towards the edge. I recommend using a yarn that really inspires you, maybe that has a really lovely feel, like this Cormo wool. This is Jill Draper Makes Stuff Mohunk, and it is so nice to touch. And if you use a yarn that feels good to the touch, you're going to want to use it more in this way. It really ignites the senses and soothes the senses as well. So thank you for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy making your own finger labyrinth.